Hi there, come on in. I'm Fred Trost. You're watching The Practical Sportsman. It's Thursday night, January 24th, the year 2002, and I'm in a panic here. I don't know if I'm even sitting in the right spot in front of the camera. Our computer crashed that had all the video files on it for tonight's show. So I had to scramble like crazy, put something together that, well, I know you'll find it interesting and entertaining. I'm sorry it isn't a brand new show, but it's good stuff. Stay tuned. Oh, I'm in a panic, I'll tell you that.
It could be. He sure as hell isn't afraid of us, is he?
What you're looking at is totally bizarre, totally unnatural, a freak of nature, a 6-point buck in the velvet wandering around people. Well, you'd think a deer like this had to have been bottle-fed as a fawn and raised around human beings. But nobody in this neighborhood is fessed up to raising this deer. Notice that it spent a little time under the apple tree, had a few mouthfuls, then moved on to the flower garden. Well, that's how deer eat. They balance their diets with a variety of food, and for dessert, oh, they like to tiptoe through the tulips. Flower gardens are a favorite. But rarely will you find a deer, even a tame one, that will let people get this close. If a person gets too close, the deer will snort, just like they do in the wild when they smell a human. It's not a loud snort, but it's distinct.
Huh? What are you doing? What? What? Where are you going? Ain't the tops right? Ain't the tip tops right off of it. Smokey, behave yourself. Yeah, pretend like he's just another dog. Yeah, pretend like... What? I don't have anything. Yeah, I don't have anything. No, I don't. I don't have anything. Chocolate?
If there's one animal that a deer is afraid of, it's a dog. Dogs are natural enemies of deer. Packs of dogs chase deer and kill them. That's why this is so unbelievable.
It's a funny looking dog, huh? He smells like a deer.
Dogs and wolves take deer down by grabbing their flanks and back legs. This deer just isn't right.
Hey, musclehead. Give me a break on with the bush already. Give me a break with the bush already. Come on, give me a break. Get out of my bushes. Come on.
If you've ever been around horses, you're always told to stay away from their back ends. I mean, horses are vegetable eaters like deer, and they don't like meat eaters walking around behind them. Horses kick. A lot of people don't realize that deer kick too, and their hooves can inflict nasty wounds. But here we have a deer that apparently is a little on the stupid side, and I can't give the dog very high marks in the IQ division either. And as you might expect, the deer doesn't like the dog's nose in his business. I mean, we're definitely not turning Smokey loose at the family picnic. He's a lap dog of the wrong kind. But like a typical dog, he's going to smell that deer all over. And the fact that that deer puts up with this is absolutely incredible. Gary Burrows from Port Sanilac was taking this video, and Gary swears that this was the first time they ever saw this deer in their yard. This first meeting took place mid-June. The only other time this deer came around was in early August. Now you're watching their second encounter.
Smokey. Oh, he wants to play? Be careful, you're gonna... Yeah, be careful you don't lose. Be careful you don't lose. Yeah. You got teeth, but he's got them horns, and they're a lot bigger. Yeah.
In August, the buck's antlers are polished, and those tines are not only long, but they're sharp. Please, if you're inspired by this tape to go out and play with a deer, don't. I'm serious. This is dangerous, especially with a buck. Don't think that deer are being playful. In the fall, as they head towards breeding season, they can snap like a twig, vault into a lightning-fast attack with their antlers. Every year, somebody gets gored by a pet deer. Smokey is fast. He can probably get away, but little kids? Well, that's another story. Now, Gary Burrows said this deer only showed up twice during the summer. He He grabbed his video camera both times, and the result is a few minutes of footage that's as strange as you'll find in the animal world. The behavior of the deer is bizarre, totally unnatural, very unpredictable, and largely unexplainable. But aberrations do occur like this among wild animals, but chances are somebody has an illegal pet deer that sometimes sneaks out to play. On a day like this, nobody would sit out on the ice trying to catch fish. I mean, nobody. Well, nobody except this guy. He tried it for a little while, but he didn't catch much, and he didn't stay long. Now, if you're going to ice fish on a day like this, and we did, it's absolutely necessary to have an ice fishing shanty. A permanent shanty made from wood is the most durable, and it will withstand those cold Arctic winds.
We have a revised plan, Maddie. We're not going to try to anchor it by putting the anchor upwind and holding it that way because we're afraid it's going to slide back and forth. We're going to use this guy's shanty and put, because the wind's blowing so hard, as a sort of a backstop and let it blow up against the shanty. What do you think? Let's try it here, Charlie.
A permanent shanty is the best if you don't mind leaving it in one spot for a week or two or more. If you like to move from spot to spot frequently, the new portable shanties are the best because they're lightweight. In a strong winter wind, they can be too lightweight though. You have to sit inside to hold them down or snug them up against a permanent shanty as we did. The Clam is a popular portable shanty, self-contained in a plastic sled which forms the floor. It opens into a flat piece on the floor with no dividers. Now, when we did this product test a few years ago, we used the older model of the Clam. The newer ones have a scissors-type pole system that sets up much faster than what you see here.
So I see this is an entire separate unit here. Doesn't come attached, you have to put it together. I can see one disadvantage that there might be here is in a wind, a heavy wind, it would be a challenge.
In the wind, it is a little bit of a challenge, especially when you're doing it by yourself.
Well, this is the Clam. It comes in 3 models, 3 sizes that range in price from $169 for a 4x6 to $469 for the big 8x8 sleeper model. The Chappelle Minuteman is an old favorite. It's also been updated with a model that has a plastic floor called the Chappelle 3000, but the Minuteman is still a popular model among ice fishermen.
Now this one has a floor in it, which you have to have flat snow. You can't have ice chunks or anything because it could kind of make the floor unstable and even break the floor, I imagine. So here's what they're doing. Yeah, get around here, John. You can see on this end. There are aluminum poles that set up on each end. Look at these guys go, trying to beat the clock here. Okay, now this one has a principle of a rod that goes on the inside between the aluminum frame.
The Minuteman with the wooden floor goes for $179, $10 more for the model with the plastic floor. Now, if you're a do-it-yourselfer, you might want to consider the Senko Super Shack. This is a deluxe shanty that Earl Sinchuk from Marquette puts out. He found that the cost of putting it together at the factory was prohibitive. Ice fishermen just wouldn't buy it. People didn't want to pay $500 for a portable shanty, so he sold it as a kit, which knocked over $100 off the price tag, and fishermen found that $389 was a lot more feasible. Now on the ice, the Super Shack unfolds with the top and bottom turning into the front and the back instead of forming the floor of the shanty. The Super Shack has a separate floor that is actually folded up in between the two ends, and it drops down when you open this whole thing up. Inside, there's a pole across the top that keeps the ends in place. It's roomy, tall enough that a 6-foot guy can stand up inside, but we're talking $389. Some fishermen might want to ice fish just now and then, not enough to justify spending $200 or $300 or $400 on a shanty. Well, John Ford has a solution for this budget problem.
So the question is it possible to build an ice fishing shanty for under 50 bucks? Well, you bet it is. Joseph Thompson from Royal Oak sent us these plans in the January issue of the Wilderness Journal. And if you look in the Practical Sportsman section, you'll find what he did is he used plywood, 4x8 sheets of plywood. We're going to use chipboard because we're going to save a few bucks that way. We're also going to need some 2x2s and some fairing strips. And in order to make the covering for it, you could use a camper-style type of a tarp used for camping. But what we're going to do is we're going to use a heavy plastic sheeting. It's about 4 mil, which should do the job for us. Now, for the hinges, you're going to need some hinges for the doorway, and the duct tape, well, we'll show you what that's going to be for. But first, let's get started and cut off a little bit of the top for the door. Taking a look at Joseph Thompson's shanty, you'll notice that the roof is rounded at the top. Well, we like that idea because we think it takes up less space in the back of the truck and it reduces the overall weight. But now how do you make sure that when you make your cuts, you take the same amount of wood off both sides? Well, on our 4x6 piece of chipboard, you want to measure in 2 feet from the side of the board and then measure 2 feet down from the top. With a felt marker attached to a 2-foot piece of string, draw a semicircle around the top of the board. This is what's going to be the front of our shanty right here. I just finished cutting out the door. We use the saber saw to also cut out the radius for the top of the shanty. Now, one tip about the door. You can really make the door any size you want to. But remember, it's wintertime and you're going to have all your winter clothes on, so make sure that you make it big enough. It's finally starting to look like something. Now what we're doing, we went ahead and we put in the 2x2 side supports just temporarily so we could put on the plastic on the outside. I used a utility knife to cut off all the excess plastic here, but I'm a little concerned that this plastic might tear. So what we're going to do is use a piece of duct tape on here, and if you look very closely at this, you can see it's got webbing throughout it. Now hopefully that'll, when we staple through this layer, that'll keep the plastic from tearing. Inside our shanty here, this pole in the center is temporarily screwed in the sides just to keep it so we could put the plastic on the top. But ultimately what we want to do is to be able to collapse this whole thing down and put it in the back of a truck. So we cut out these V's, and what will happen is once this temporary screw is removed, that'll simply slide right down into place. Well, putting the door on was a piece of cake because we'd already cut it out earlier. All I needed to do was to put a couple of pin hinges in there. And the door handle is just rope with a knot tied in it. But Matt Radzalowski had a good idea. He thought about putting these door stops in here because if you don't, when you close the door, you could break off your hinges. Well, we tried to make this whole thing as light as possible, but we're still going to need a little help getting it across the ice. So we'll put this tow bar in here, and all we have to do is to put a rope in here to pull and finish up putting in the skis, and we'll be all ready to go ice fishing. Well, Matt Radzalowski, you get a big assist here for finishing the skis for me.
Well, I don't know if I want to take credit for the skis, John, after the way they performed. Basically, I just made those out of some scrap wood we had laying around the workshop. But if I was to do it again, I'd go to the garage sale and see if I can't find some budget skis.
Yeah, that actually is a good idea because on a day like today when the sun's real beating down on the ice and it's real hard packed, it's not bad at all. But if you were to get
any accumulation of snow on that ice, boy, you got a workout ahead of you.
Exactly. Yeah, it was about 30 degrees. It was a gorgeous day out on Park
day.
Lake here. Yep, it was perfect.
We probably didn't need a shanty, but the winds picked up later on in the day, and it was kind of nice to have.
Yeah, now it's probably, would you say this is a two-man job or what?
It is a two-man job. One man could probably do it. Now, you don't have to make it as long as we did. If you were to shorten up the overall length, it's a lot easier for one man to put it together.
Right. Now, one of the things I do like is we use the plastic sheeting, which is attached to the frame. Mm-hmm. Now, that's not going to blow in a heavy wind. That will not blow around the lake like, maybe some of the other models.
Right. No, that kind of keeps it tied together a lot nicer and makes assembly real easy.
Now, whose idea was this? Was this yours or Joseph's?
No, those are the V-notches there. That's what I came up with. It kind of makes a nice way to locking the shanty together and makes it very portable.
All set. Ready to go. Now, we don't have a floor in our ice fishing shelter, but I think we should go ahead and drill our holes first.
Oh, definitely. Drill your holes first and then pull your shanty on top of the holes. You don't want to take a chance of maybe poking the auger through the side of the shanty, or else having your hand slip off and punching it through that way.
Well, even if it did, it would only cost us about $6. In fact, that's why we went with the clear plastic sheeting instead of the heavy blue tarp, because that was about $24, and we wanted to save some money.
Yeah, not only that, it has a lot of advantages too. Not only letting the sun's warmth come in, but as far as us videotaping, it's really a big plus. In a dark shade, it's hard to find your gear. This is going to help you find your gear and even help you bait your hook a little easier.
Yeah, not only that, but it's a heck of a lot easier to see what's going on and to see your spring bobber for one thing. Here, you got that? See him?
Yep.
Oh. Oh, there we go. Not too bad.
A little small for a keeper.
A little small, but I think maybe we'll put him back.
How do you like the shanty?
It's not bad. I kind of feel like I live in a greenhouse.
Well, nice and warm though, eh?
It stays really, really warm in here. It's great. Put him back. Now, the fishing wasn't exactly fantastic, Matt, but I like the clear sides on the shanty.
One benefit of that is you could keep your eye on your tip up and also see what the other fishermen are doing as well.
That's right. Another benefit maybe for people, a family, for example, that doesn't fish a whole lot, doesn't want to sink a couple $100s into an ice fishing shanty. For $35, you can have yourself a fantastic shanty, and I think we have to give it 2 thumbs up.
This is the kind of walleye they pull from Saginaw Bay in the winter. 10 pounds, 2 ounces, jigging a Swedish pimple, caught on January 24th by John Lamar from Bay City. Winter is the time. Huge crappie. A lot of them are caught during spawning in June, but John Strakota from Elsie pulled this 16.5-inch crappie from Gratiot County's Rainbow Lake. That was the end of January. Crappie prefer minnows, and that was the magic bait. 14-year-old Nick Leslie from Bay City had a tale to tell on this one, I'm sure. 17.5-pound northern pike, 40 inches long, Beebe Lake in Clare County. That was on a tip-up in mid-February. Now, you want to hear a real fish story? Try this one on for size. Jackson County, a mill pond, and this bass, 2 feet long, 10 pounds, 1 ounce? Yow!
Big one.
No kidding. Biggest I've ever seen. And what's it, his brother?
8-pounder I caught the day after. This one I caught off a friend of mine's line. He was fishing beside me, and I looked up and seen his bobber was tipped sideways, and you see the silhouette of him taking his bobber down. So I told him to set the hook, and I grabbed the net, and he set the hook, broke his line, the bobber was gone. He says, well, let's get the boat. I said, you're not going to chase that bobber around the lake. I grabbed a Rapala, threw it in the path of the bobber, snagged his bobber, and brought it in. 15 minutes later.
Holy cow. What a deal. What, Liberty Mill Pond, what is that, public water? Or what?
Yeah.
Public water. This has got to be,
Offshore.
I
No
can't
boat.
I can't recall how this stacks up in records, but in recent history, I can't think of a bass that's been taken anywhere near this size.
Remarkable. I love it.
You're a hero, aren't you? Way to go, man. Well, Philip Brunner from Hanover, we know the technique. Snag that bobber.
You got it.
That's all there is to it. Congratulations, man. That's awesome. Barbara Conklin from Fairborn, Ohio, does wonders with pheasants. And this year, she prepared a tasty-looking Mandarin pheasant dish garnished in an award-winning way.
Well, it's a variation on stir fry using pheasant and mandarin oranges and zucchini squash and ramen noodles.
Ooh, very inexpensive but tasty part of the
Yes,
dish.
my kids like ramen noodles, and I understand you do
Yes,
too.
I do too.
And it's got peanuts in it to add a little crunchy flavor to it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's very quick and easy to do.
But the garnish around the outside, that
You told me that was acorn squash?
Yes, it's acorn squash sliced very, very, very thin. and
How do
then-
you slice it like that? Do you have little? Did you buy one of those machines with an 800 number?
No, you have a meat department do it. They slice it real thin for
They
you.
do. I'll be darned. Well, that looks terrific.
Thank you.
Take a look down there. Roses and different flowers in that dish. I don't know. It's going to be tough. You guys want to eat them or just leave them be?
I say eat them.
I say eat them. Eat them. Okay. Better dig in.
Oh, you better stand back when you ask this judging panel to dig in.
Better, yeah.
I mean, they really go after it in a big way. Remember, this is a 4th category. This is the 8th recipe that they've eaten in a row. They are getting full. They're having a good time. But now it's time to settle down and render their decisions. And it was tough.
Well, they've looked at it. They've stared at it. They've pawed through it. They've oohed and awed. They've tasted it. They've eaten lots of it. And now they're back to the beginning. Pondering, oohing, awing. I guess it doesn't matter where we start. You guys are just shuffling your cards back and forth. Have you
I
come
tell
to
you,
a
this
firm...
recipe category could have gone either way, but the pheasant crab edged out the mandarin pheasant, but it was a tough call.
I guess, we've said it before, they're all great recipes, and that's why they're here today. This is probably the hardest one of the night for me.
Is that right?
Oh, yeah, honest, and wholeheartedly, it is the hardest for me. The mandarin pheasant was very, very good. That would be something very quick and easy, actually quick and easy to do. The special touch with the fortune cookie, I think that's great, and she, took her time and she made these little ones for us.
That would be fun to do with
It
a
was
meal.
a lot of fun. Oh, I bet the kids would love it.
Yeah.
You could, hey, what's yours say? Oh, I got to clean my room today. That's getting 2 jobs done at once. But I think what I'm going to have to do is go.
Well, the judges leaned towards the pheasant crab because of the unusual presentation. We had that recipe on the show a couple weeks ago, but really, your pheasant cooking repertoire wouldn't be complete without this dish, the elegant mandarin pheasant. I hope you enjoyed this program. Next week, it's going to be a brand new show, brand new footage. Be there. I'll see you then. The 6th of September, 1992, 6:06 p.m., Kip England from Menominee is behind the camera in Michigan's Upper Peninsula. In the past 3 years, he's hunted a little but videotaped a lot of black bears, and this is one of the biggest. The way it sniffed the air and looked right toward the camera, Kip wondered if that bear wasn't smelling the blood of an Englishman. Sort of put a chill up his spine. Kip wondered if taping this bear at this distance was really that good of an idea. But one thing's for sure, a fat black bear like this with a sleek coat of fur isn't as likely to be trouble as a bear that's thin, hungry, maybe been whipped in a fight. Those are the kind of black bears that you have to really be careful of. It's interesting to see how bow-legged the front legs are on a black bear. At first glance, you wouldn't think a bear could run very fast, but they can sprint at 30 miles an hour. That bear could be in the blind with the cameraman in the matter of 2 or 3 seconds, and Kip knows it. Time code on the video jumps to 6:21 p.m., which means that the bear had been on the bait pile for 15 minutes. It was now lying down. You can see its breath as it eats. Now, Kip wasn't as nervous now because the bear seemed content to eat. Flies buzzed around its face. If you've never been close to a wild bear, ooh boy, they smell. But from a distance, they look cuddly and friendly. Keep that distance in mind, though. Up close, that bear would neither be cuddly nor friendly, but they are fun to watch.